Hi there, gorgeous! Hope you're having a fabulous day. In today's video, I'm showing you the fox eye makeup trend. This is one that's been very highly requested by so many of you, and it's been trending on YouTube now for the past few weeks. I hadn't heard about it before you started requesting it, and I was intrigued. Went and looked up a few videos, watched them, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I already do and I love it. I actually made a couple videos on this same kind of technique last year, actually, and I'll have those linked below for you if you're interested in checking them out. I was very pregnant in one of those videos, so please don't remind me of how fat I am for those of you who have told me how fat I am then and now. God bless you. I love you too. The reason that I love this technique so much, and it's one that I started doing for myself long before it became a trend. I mean, who knew that I was on trend before it was a trend? It never happens to me. I love it because I have downturned eyes that droop down at the outer corners. So for me, it helps to lift and make my eyes appear brighter. And that's why I love this technique so much. And so it's great for those of us with droopy eyes, hooded eyes, more mature eyes. If you're looking for an eye lift without surgery, and that's what they're calling it, then I think that you'd really enjoy this technique. And I'm going to show you everything up close with as little editing as possible so that you can see all the details as they're meant to be seen. First things first, I'm going to apply an eyeshadow primer. I'm using the one from Milani. Letting that fully dry and set, and then once it has fully set, I am going to take my Wet n Wild Brulee eyeshadow. You want to use a shade here that matches your skin tone, and I'm applying that right onto the brow bone, bringing it down onto the lid a little bit also. And what this does is it helps to set a blank canvas for the eyeshadow to go on. It helps it to glide on much easier. It creates a nice base. Now, obviously, you can use any color that you want to for this trend. You don't have to use neutrals. I'm using neutrals simply because they are the most basic, most classic type colors. And the eyeshadow palette I'm going to is from Ego Cosmetics. This is the Temptress palette. And so you can see the type of shades that exist in this palette. I'm namely going to be using the black here, the dark brown, this lighter shade right here, and this lighter brown. So first thing I'm going to do is get my base eye set. And the way that I'll do that is I'll take the shade called Lace, which is this, sorry, that's not where I want to start. Okay, rewind. I'm going to take the shade called Uptown. I'm going to apply this into the crease. And by the way, the brush that I'm using here is from Sedona Lace. It's the EB15. It's one of my absolute favorites for crease work. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again because this may be the first video that you've seen from me. If you have hooded eyes, you want to bring this eyeshadow up a little bit higher. So make sure your eye is open as you're applying the eyeshadow. And if you can't see it when your eye is open, then start bringing it up a little bit higher until you can see it when your eye is open. And then for this look also, because we're extending the eye upwards and we're creating that eye lift type look, I'm also extending this eyeshadow out a little bit into a pointed wing, if you will. You can see how I've created the shape there. So I'm taking the shade called Lace from this palette. I'll apply that directly onto the lid, only the inner half of the lid. And then what I'm going to do is take that same shade that I was using in the crease before, and I'll use that to apply to the outer half of the lid and blend it back into that shade on the inner half of the lid. Did I say that right? You can see what I'm doing. And now for the fun part. This is the part that I love the most. You can use any medium that you want for the eyeliner. I like to go with eyeshadow because it's easier to correct if you make a mistake, and it's a lot easier to use overall. So I'll start with the shade called Stiletto in this palette, which is a pure matte black. And by the way, the angled brush that I'm using here, I don't even have it turned around right. Let's try that again. Okay. The angled brush that I'm using here is from MAC. This is the 266, and I love it because it is so defined and it has a very sharp, clean edge to it. I'm sorry, this is the MAC 263. I have both. I quite often get them confused with one another. Anyway, either brush is really good for this kind of application. And then what you do is you want to see where the end of your brow is. So my brow ends right about there, and you want to envision an imaginary line that runs from the end of your brow and connects down to the outermost corner of your eye. And that is where you want to focus this line of winged liner to help lift and elongate the eyes. So what I typically do is place the brush like so. And then rely on that angled design to create the line for me. And then I'll begin to bring it back to the eye and fill in the gaps that I've left behind. And by the way, again, if you have hooded eyes, this kind of method is something that you can do. It's a little trickier because sometimes the hood will cut off part of the wing. So in that instance, it's something that I have to do too because my eyes are semi-hooded. And I'll go ahead and continue to fill in the remainder of the lash line with that black eyeshadow. And I like to use small strokes like this. I often get picked on for applying my liner like this, but you know what? You do what works for you, boo-boo, okay? And don't let anybody make you feel badly about how you apply your makeup, because we are all different, and if all of us applied our makeup the same, well, what fun would that be? And you can see my wing is really thick. I mean, it is, but I'm going to clean that up a little bit later. It's one of my most favorite techniques for winged eyeliner, and I'll show you that at the end, but right now I'm going to work on building this line up a little bit more. And one thing I noticed in the tutorials, and I can talk about this too from personal experience with a look like this, is that you do want to keep this line very thin on the inner part of the eye and thicken it more on the outer part of the eye, because that is what helps to lift the eyes and give you that eye lift without surgery appeal. Okay, now that we have that good base built up with the black eyeliner, the next thing I'm going to do is take a pencil brush, and I like to use my Sigma E30. There it is. And I'm going to use a really dark brown eyeshadow. This is the one called After Hours from the palette. And what I will do is, starting at the outer corner here, take that brown eyeshadow and begin to smudge out the edges of the black. Smoke it. And this helps to soften it and create a very cat eye type look. And then when you feel like you've got a really good smoky line going there, like I do there, what I like to do is take a makeup remover wipe. I'm using these from Neutrogena. You can also use a pointed Q-tip with makeup remover if you want. It's completely up to you. I like to use a makeup wipe because it gives me a great amount of control. So what I'll do is I will wrap my finger in it like this, and I'll use that to go over the edge and sharpen that line. Sharpen it into oblivion. And that's basically it in a nutshell. Now you do need to add lashes. I feel like a look like this, lashes are a must because they really help to emphasize the lifted look of the eye. And I typically go with a pair that has a longer length on the outer corners to help go along with that accentuated lift on the outer corner. So I will show you that here in a second. I'm going to complete this eye, eyebrows, and all that, and be back to show you that in a second. The lashes that I'm adding to this look come from my lash line, Inky Minky Lashes. I'll have them linked below if you're interested. These are in the style Blessed, and you can see what I mean. They are very elongated on the outer corners, and they're shorter on the inner corners. And these are perfect for a look like this because it will help accentuate that lifted eye appearance. Now, a special note here for those of you who have hooded eyes, you don't want to wear lashes like this. They're not really flattering for a hooded eye shape. You want to stick to lashes that have more length in the middle of the lashes, so ones that are very long in this area will help to lift and open up your eyes. And if you're interested in some recommendations, I'll have some listed below for you in the description box of some styles from my line that, brain fart, demonstrate that style so that you can get an idea of what to look for in a lash. So I'll go ahead and apply these. And even with these, I have to be careful with lashes like this and make sure that I trim them exactly, because if you leave too much hanging off the ends, then it can make your eyes look droopy. And I already have droopy looking eyes anyway, so yeah. And for a look like this, there are two other things you can do to help accentuate the outer corners of the eyes. When you apply the lash, which I'll go ahead and apply this lash quickly here so I can show that to you. Instead of applying the lash directly on the lash line, you can actually apply it a little bit above the lash line so it begins to travel upwards towards that outer corner. The next tip I have to share with you is apply a mascara to the outer corners of your false eyelashes to give the eyes much more lift. Now, I would never have recommended this many years ago, and I didn't for the longest time until Ardell came out with this false eyelash cleaning spray solution. You can get this at Sally Beauty stores, by the way. This takes everything off of your false eyelashes, so don't worry about applying mascara on the top of them. Just make sure that you clean them at the end of the day so you don't end up with an eye infection. I'm using the Rimmel Scandaleyes Volume on Demand mascara for this demonstration here, and applying a little bit of that to the outer corners. And all this does is emphasizes the length on the outer corners. Everyone has their own way of doing this particular trend. That's what I noticed when I was watching a lot of different videos on the Fox makeup trend. And so this was my rendition of it. It's something that I absolutely love, and when I wear it out in public or when I wear it in videos, I'm always asked, what did you do to make your eyes look like that? How did you do that? And it is quite a transformative process, and I absolutely recommend trying it out if you have not already. But like I said, make it your own. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Don't be afraid to experiment and just have fun with it. If there are any questions I didn't address for you within the video, feel free to leave them below. I'll do my absolute best to get back to them as much as I can. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch. Look forward to seeing you again next time.